Okay,
Right,
over to you, Angie.
can you hear me? I love technology. Sorry, I was hoping to do this on my laptop rather than on my phone because I hate doing it on my phone because I can't see people. But the video on my laptop just isn't wanting to play today. Okay, what an interesting Bible passage, and as I've read it more and more, I really wish I hadn't gone with it because it is quite a telling passage. It feels like it's about telling us off. It feels like it's about realizing that, you know, some people do things wrong, but then that's the case. We do. We're not perfect. We're all, we all get it wrong. We all do things wrong. We all do things differently, which is probably a good thing. And this passage is trying not to tell us off in a negative way, but telling us to think as a community. And I think that's why I really like it, because although I hate it because it's quite a difficult passage to preach on, I like it because it's about community and it's about being connected together as one in the church, as a community. I can't believe I've just used the word connected in the sermon, bearing in mind lots of conversations that I've had over the last few weeks. So as I kind of like thought through this and wondered what God wanted me to say, I went for a swim yesterday because I was really struggling and really couldn't figure out what God was wanting me to say or anything. So I thought, right, let's just go for a swim. And usually I come up with some wonderful thoughts as I'm slowly going up and down the lanes. And I came up with absolutely nothing. It was interesting. I was having a chat with one of the ladies in the showers who was, well, I wasn't having a chat. I was just trying to, we were just talking about, one lady had said she was swimming too fast to be in the slow lane. And so when I went into the toilets, she was in there putting her makeup and she says, I feel really bad that I was in the slow lane and what have you. I said, oh no, don't worry, you were fine. We all go at our own speed. And I was being really encouraging and supportive and all those things which you expect one another to be at times when someone's upset or stressed that they've done something wrong. And as we were walking out, she was saying, oh, I'm off into town now for a night out. I've got my little black dress on, and she'd put her makeup on. And I was going, oh, that's cool. I'm off home to try and write a sermon for tomorrow. And she went, are you a vicar? And I went, no. She said, oh, is this, do you often preach then? And I went, now and then. And I said, I often come for a swim to help me think about it, but I've come out empty-handed. And she went, well, hopefully you'll get something as the evening goes along. I went, thank you. Enjoy your evening. But just as I started to tell the story to myself when I got home and just telling it to you, I realized actually God was speaking there. You see, in that pool, if you've not been swimming at Horsham, you don't get this, but in the pool, they have different lanes, slow, medium, and fast. And you choose which lane you want to swim in, depending on what mood you're in, I guess, and how fast you swim and how slow you swim. So I'm always in the slow lane because I quite like going slow and because I do go slow. And this lady who was swimming with us, she was quite fast. And actually, I thought she possibly could have gone into the medium lane, but she was the one complaining to this other woman that she was going really fast. So as I kind of like started to think, well, actually, she's done exactly opposite of what our reading was talking about, because she's just gone straight for it in public with lots of people to moan and complain about this woman. But our reading today is telling us to first and foremost do it one-to-one, privately. Let's not get into a big hoo-ha. Let's not get into a big fight. Let's not make it such a public thing. Let's be real and kind when we show each other faults. But also to remember, we all have our own faults. There's that lovely passage, isn't there, about taking the plank out of your eye before you start taking the plank out of someone else's eye. As a church community, we come together to share in God's grace and in God's mercy and in God's love. We come with all sorts of baggage. with all sorts of ideas of how people should behave or shouldn't behave. But we come because we know the grace and the mercy and the love of Christ. However, some people come to church to find that grace, mercy, and the love of Christ. This passage also got me thinking that this passage is also about teaching us and telling us the purpose of church, which again is a subject that I've struggled with over the years. When I first became a Christian, very, very many years ago, at the age of 16, I didn't really go to church. I kind of became a Christian on a camp with loads of teenagers and what have you. No one in my family was in a church, so I didn't really go to church, and I found it okay not to be part of a church community, not to be part of a church family. I kind of felt I was doing okay. I could read my Bible, I could listen to worship songs, and I could pray. I didn't really need to go to church. During my year out when I lived in Wales, I didn't go to church then either, because the nearest church to us was a Welsh-speaking church. And, you know, me and English is bad enough, but to learn Welsh as well would have just been a complete nightmare. And to try and learn Welsh in the biblical and reading the Bible, it just wasn't going to happen. So I didn't go to church then. At university, church was a bit hit and miss because, you know, it was university, and I was out a lot on Saturday nights, so I didn't want to get up for the Sunday morning, which is possibly true now as well. But I realised as time has gone on that church is important. And our passage reminds us that church is important right at the very end. And I guess that's a part of the passage I want to focus on. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am. Church should be about a gathering of people. Church should be about a gathering of people looking to find out more about Christ, to find out more about his love, his grace, his mercy, and how he wants us to be as his people. Church is about lifting up Christ to those around us. I guess the purpose of church is also to help one another. Church becomes a family with all its imperfections, all our unhealthy patterns, all with different opinions and different minds, all with different ways of doing things. But with God's grace and God's love, we share together. The church helps one another. We help one another to grow. As a family, we should always talk openly and honestly. However, for some of us, that's not the case or experience we have in families. For some of us, families are destructive places, places where people are hurt, places where people don't feel listened to or loved or cared for. And so when we think of church as a family, it can be really destructive and really hard to comprehend. So if we think of church as Jesus Christ's family, a family that looks to live the ways that Jesus lived, a family that looks to Jesus in all things, we start to see a positive family experience. I think most of you know that my family experience has not been the best over my lifetime. There have been lots of hurts and lots of angers and lots of disputes, lots of fallings out. Currently, we're in the middle of one at the moment, and it pains me to see a family in such disarray. But what upholds me and what strengthens me is my family of the church. For there is no greater power than family caring for and loving one another and lifting each other up through prayer and through worship and through gathering together. Again, as I went through this reading, I go to the Bible, funnily enough, and I've got a lot of Bibles in my little flat. Some of them are study Bibles, some of them are Bibles people have given to me. I never understand that, particularly my friends think, oh, they see a Bible and at birthdays they give me a Bible, thinking I don't have my own Bible, obviously. But that's great. So I was looking at some of my study Bibles to see what it was saying, to see what it possibly meant. And I discovered the Bible I was given when I became a Christian. And it's got lots of stickers and all sorts of things in. It's even got a True Love Weight credit card, which I've just discovered. So I went and looked at it. I thought, well, I don't tend to use this one now because it's a youth Bible and it's a bit tatty and worn, and you know, I feel I may have grown up a little bit to be using my youth Bible. But I went to the youth Bible and I went to the passage, and it was really quite funny. Well, it's not really, but it is quite funny to me that where I went to it, this obviously is a passage that has meant something to me over the years. Can someone tell me what the reading was again? Go on. I've got it written down, but I can't find it here. Matthew 18. It's obviously a passage that has meant something to me because I've highlighted bits of it. I now wish I could find the notebook that went with this Bible to see what I highlighted. But in this lovely old style youth Bible, it has these little American, because it's an American youth Bible, little stories. And I kind of like looked at it, and it was the little story that went with this passage was about friends. And I hate you. And I guess that's possibly why I looked at this. Because I possibly was having an issue with a friend. Or my sister, most likely, if I'm honest. Most likely my younger sister. And I looked at this and I read the story that went with it about what's going on. Dad asked Suzanne to his daughter. There was lots of shouting and you shouted, I hate you. And I kind of like was reading this and I kind of like went, oh, okay. And then it tells you to read the passage we've just had. And it gives you a couple of things to consider. So making a list of friends with whom you have conflicts and pray daily for them to strengthen you to help deal with those conflicts. Writing about a friendship that's bothering you. Use this as Jesus' plan as a model. Write your own plan for improving the friendships. What will you do? What will you say? And I guess I looked at that and thought, well, those are things for us today as well. Maybe not friendship issues for some of us. But maybe there are people or family members in our life that we're having conflicts with. And actually sometimes, although our passage says go and talk to them in private and then take other people with you who you trust and will be there to support, I think the bit that hits me is we need to pray. Pray with other Christians about that, which is the passage, the element of this passage that I had underlined or highlighted. That I tell you that two of you on earth agree about something and pray for it, it will be done by my Father in heaven. This is true because if 2 or 3 come together in my name, I am there. I long for the day that we don't meet on Zoom. I struggle massively with meeting on Zoom. Although we are gathered together via the internet, I don't feel gathered together sometimes. And it's that gathering where family becomes real. Other people, you are gathered with family in your homes. And I guess maybe it's that singleness in me that I'm gathered on my own here. But I know through the power of God's Holy Spirit that we are gathered together. But the presence of being together in one church sanctuary, in one school hall, in whatever, the presence is felt more. So today, guys, I would encourage you, as we start the new school year, as we start the new church year, as we start anew following lockdown, as people return to work, as people go back to school, as conflicts possibly may come ahead because we're suddenly interacting and engaging with one another, to pray for one another. And in difficult times, come to your family with those prayer requests so that we can pray for you and for those conflicts. Family is what Christ has called us to. Christ has called us to this church, to our church, to be family together. Those who fall asleep while listening to me, that's the only picture I can see on my phone, is Mike asleep, which is quite amusing. People who go on holiday and still join us via Zoom church. Family are important. Church is important. Let us stay connected through our presence together here, through coffees and cake in tea shops. And as we come together to worship together, we come together as one, under the fathership of Jesus Christ and God the Father. Amen.